Hey guys, it's Mandals here to ask which Hoenn legendary was the true MVP back in Generation 3. Yeah, remember how I said I didn't want this series to become a which legendary is the best contest?
And since I don't want this to be a which legendary is the best contest, I feel like it'll be best to make the videos this way.
Well, today we're gonna have a which legendary is the best contest. And I really made this list as unbiased as possible. This isn't a top 10 favorites list, I genuinely tried to mathematically figure out which legendaries were the very best back then. In short, I've done a lot of number crunching and I've got a lot of numbers to work with. Ooh, like this one right here. It's a 2. Or this one. That's a 7. As mentioned previously, for this series I'll be making one video for the legendaries of that generation, and another video covering all the rest of the Pokemon. And well, here's the Legendary Edition. And another reminder, this video will be going over only the legendaries that were new to Hoenn, and only how they performed at the time. As much as I would love to crown Mewtwo in all of these videos, I don't think it would make for the best viewing experience. And well, now that that's been said, roll the video. Number 10, Reggie Rock. Now, to call Reggie Rock overpowered is a bit of an overstatement, but there's only so many legends in Hoenn, and we've got to start somewhere. Now, this doesn't at all mean that Reggie Rock is bad, he's quite the opposite actually. The worst badass among a group of better badasses is still pretty badass. Anyways, Reggie Rock has physical bulk that'll keep it alive for eons to come. Furthermore, this bulk allows it to do nifty things such as buff itself with Curse. Its attack is solid, that's a rock pun in case you were wondering, but Curse will really bring those numbers to obnoxiously deadly levels. And even though Reggie Rock's speed is slower than my mental state, its incredible 200 base defense almost always assures that you'll get at least one curse off. Unless, of course, you're fighting a special attacker. Yeah, just stay away from those Hydro Pumps and you'll be fine. Still don't believe me? Fine. If that's the case, use Reggie Rock's failsafe. Explosion! Unless your foe's a ghost, you're gonna take them down with you. Number 9, Reggie Ice. So what happens when you take Reggie Rock's strengths and weaknesses and switch them around? Reggie Ice happens, and it's a glorious sight to be seen. Sure, the Golem at a glance just looks like a huge brick of ice, but don't let this deceive you. With the bulk that Reggie Ice wields, you may as well just assume that this bad boy is made out of diamonds. Only this time, the Reggie specializes in special defense instead of physical defense. This puts Reggie Ice ahead of Reggie Rock for a few reasons. First and foremost, it's because there's a much higher demand for tanking special attacks instead of physical attacks in the Generation 3 metagame. Next, Reggie Ice is a special attacker itself, which is, put simply, a better situation for a Pokemon to be in. However, Reggie Rock is better in the sense that it can set up with Curse, while Reggie Ice doesn't really have that option. It can, however, steal any stat boosts using Psych Up, so that should definitely be noted. While quite similar though, Reggie Ice does come out on top in the end. Sorry, you big clump of rocks. Number 8, Jirachi. Coming up as Hoenn's solution to having their very own Mew, we've got Jirachi. I mentioned in previous videos how Mew was ridiculously balanced with its all-around 100 base stats. Jirachi's stats are basically the exact same, so we should expect a similar level of overpowered from the Pokemon. However, does Jirachi deliver with the versatility that the Pokemon boasts? Oh yeah, it totally does. Jirachi has plenty in its move pool to dispatch any opponent. This includes a move called Doom Desire, which to that, all I have to say is, really? Doom Desire? I thought you were cute, Jirachi, but that's some scary shit. Anyways, Doom Desire isn't really our focal point. Instead, I want to mention how Jirachi's combination of Wish and Calm Mind make it an absolute nuisance to deal with. It's also hard to take out Jirachi even before it sets up with Calm Mind since it has so few weaknesses and a boatload of resistances. Lastly, Jirachi packs a punch with practically every move, so it should certainly be considered as a competitive option. Number 7, Deoxys Speed. Deoxys, if you didn't know, has got multiple forms and all of them are quite different from one another. That being the case, you should expect to see them all on this list in separate categories since they're diverse enough to be classified as their own and are extremely good battlers. Deoxys Speed, being the first, was unfortunate enough to receive the short end of the stick. Dear Mother of God, it's good, but not as good as his fellow Deoxys forms. However, if you're looking for a Pokemon that will outspeed the competition every single time, look no further. A 180 base speed is ludicrous, so you can expect that not even a cheetah with a jetpack strapped to its back that just did a line of cocaine is escaping from Deoxys Speed. Unfortunately, that's where a lot of the Pokemon's strengths end. The Pokemon can pull off knockoff, taunt, and recover shenanigans, but speed is this Pokemon's bread and butter. Don't be discouraged by Deoxys Speed though, as its flexibility makes it fit for tons of situations. Number 6, Deoxys Defense. Hey look, another Deoxys! Oh come on, don't look so surprised, I said this was gonna happen. If you didn't take the hint from looking at the Pokemon's name, then let me be the first to inform you that Deoxys Defense is the bulky Deoxys variation. And when I say bulky, you need to understand what I'm saying here. Like seriously, take what you think your definition of bulk is and times that to about the 900th power. The Pokemon doesn't get things done quickly, but heck, it really doesn't need to. Here, instead of rambling, let me just show you what this Pokemon is working with. A 160 base for both defense stats should be more than enough info for you to work with. On top of that, this Deoxys form, just like the others, comes equipped with Recover, practically guaranteeing this Pokemon's survival. And to conclude, the Pokemon also deals damage since it can learn Nightshade. 'Tis amazing, I assure you. Number 5, Rayquaza. So, somewhere along the lines while Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire were in development, Game Freak said to themselves, hey, let's break the metagame and give this OP dragon an even more OP form. I shouldn't have to tell you why that's ridiculous if you're aware of how much Rayquaza wrecked prior to Gen 6. I mean, the Pokemon keeps 2 other legendaries in check and lays the smackdown on them when they misbehave. Lore aside, we can't go over how strong Rayquaza is without giving mention to the Pokemon's specs. In a nutshell, Rayquaza is strikingly similar to Salamence, but Rayquaza is just more souped up. It's also the same typing as Salamence, so there's no difference there. Now, I already talked about how OP Salamence was in my last video, so I won't bore you with the details again. I suppose a notable difference is that Rayquaza is a better mixed attacker with a slightly different move pool. Overall, it's really simple though and can be summarized by Rayquaza dealing massive damage with an insane variety of moves. Yup, that's it. You can transition now. Number 4, Deoxys Attack and Deoxys Standard. I had a really hard time placing Deoxys Standard form on this list, so I figured it would work best to tie the Pokemon with its attack form, since they're very similar and only have slight differences when it comes to their attack and defenses. Deoxys Attack is squishier, but Deoxys Standard has less attack. Moving on, I want to emphasize how much of a glass cannon Deoxys Attack is. No, actually, glass cannon would be an understatement. I think a better term would be paper-thin antimatter laser cannon. Its defenses are small enough that if the Pokemon would so much as trip, Deoxys Attack would shatter into a billion pieces. However, its attack numbers are equal to that of a universe-ending apocalypse. And its speed is phenomenal too, so if you're worried about foes getting through your non-existent defenses, don't worry because they'll probably be dead before they can even think about that. Oh, and the move pool. Dear God, the move pool. Do yourself a favor and just use the guy already. You won't go wrong. Number 3, Grodin. Grodin, much like Reggie Rock, is a fantastic physical attack sponge, but unlike our boulder friend...
It's not just a boulder, it's a rock.
Yeah, rock, whatever. Unlike our rock friend, Grodin has a lot more that it can work with. Reggie Rock is to a brick wall, as Grodin is to a brick wall that wields machine guns and flamethrowers. The Pokemon will take a hit, but also retaliate with high amounts of DPS of its own. In fact, after plugging some numbers into the Pokemon Showdown battle calculator, I found that a Grodin with EVs invested in its HP will survive an Ice Beam from a Deoxys attack. We just talked about how much damage that thing does, so this information is pretty shocking. Also, similar to a lot of Pokemon that I've been talking about, Grodin has a very nice move pool. Solar Beam can be used instantly due to drought, it has Stab, Earthquake, and can make great use of Swords Dance. There are certainly other moves that I could talk about, but I think I made my point. Grodin is friggin' OP. Number 2, Latios and Latias. Yeah, I know these are 2 different Pokemon, but their differences are minuscule enough for me to tie them in this spot. Okay, so right now you're probably confused and wondering how these 2 made it up higher than Grodin and Rayquaza on this list. The short answer, and the ultimate secret to Latias's and Latios's power, is this: Soul Dew. There's a reason Soul Dew banned these 2 into Ubers, even in today's metagame. That reason is that Soul Dew increases the special defense and special attack of Latios and Latias by a whopping 50%. These guys have terrific special stats already, but Soul Dew makes these Pokemon absolute living nightmares. Also, both of the types that these Pokemon benefited from Stab with were special attacks at the time, hence Soul Dew buffed any stab moves this duo pulled off. Latios and Latias have access to both Light Screen and Reflect as well, making them great specially defensive support Pokemon. If you're not trembling in your boots by now, then I commend you, because these guys are ridiculous. Oh, do you want honorable mentions before we move on? Well, okay, but all I've got left is Registeel. Sorry, dude, you're the worst legendary in Hoenn, and I just couldn't find a spot for you. Moving on. Number 1, Kyogre. It's been debated and constantly feuded for some time between the community regarding which weather legendary is superior. Allow me to drop some knowledge bombs on y'all and inform you that the better one is indeed Kyogre. This can certainly depend on how good of control you have over switching out and changing the weather, but overall, Kyogre stomped on every other legendary back in Generation 3. There's not a mathematically complex reason behind this, and what it really boils down to is Kyogre's ability Drizzle. Assuming pesky Grodin users don't negate your rain by switching in, Kyogre's stab water moves that are boosted from rain do incomprehensible amounts of damage. And if you're a true sadist, you could always buff Kyogre more with Calm Mind. Thunder is also nice to have since it has 100% accuracy in the rain. There's practically not a single legendary that we've talked about that Kyogre doesn't one-hit, so with that info, I think we can conclude that Kyogre is indeed the most overpowered. Hey guys, thanks as always for watching. Currently, I've been streaming a lot on Twitch and have been active on Twitter, so you should follow me on those platforms if you don't already. Be sure to also subscribe and leave a like if you liked what you saw, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!